Hello everyone, this is my honorable mentions video, so let's just get right into it. Starting off, we have the Avalanches' Since I Left You, which is, if you haven't heard it before, basically it's a record that functions completely on samples alone. It is incredible what they do with that. I believe they use over 3,500 samples, which is mind-blowing. Um, yeah, check it out. The only reason I didn't put it here is I haven't listened to it enough times for it to fully make like the top like of what I love in music. Next we have William Basinski, this Disintegration Tapes. If you haven't heard this album before and you're into super experimental stuff, definitely give this a listen. Essentially, what it is he takes uh, these old loops and he just plays them over and over and over until they just degrade to the point of inaudibility. And it takes, they play for a long time. Like it'll be the same 5 seconds of song you'll be hearing for like an hour on end. Um, really nice ambient music. Um, I just don't really think it belongs on a top 30 of all time because like it's more about what's behind it than what the music actually is. Um, Next up, we have sorry, we have Taylor Swift with Evermore. I like this album. It's a lot better, in my opinion, than a lot of the other really annoying generic pop stuff that she's put out. And I don't have anything against pop. I just found her stuff to always be really sort of generic and trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator. But on this album, I feel like she definitely goes full folk, and it's a really interesting sound. The only problem I have with it is that it's a little bit too bland instrumentally for to make my list. Next we have Dream Theater with Images and Words. Great album. I have only listened to it once, but if you're looking for prog metal crossover with lush instrumentation, the instrumentation here is so good. Give it a listen. I'm gonna check back on it soon. Um, the Depeche Mode, Music for the Masses. Great album. Just not really my thing. Um, just the sound of it like isn't something that would make my top 30, but I can definitely see it making other people's, and I'd give it a listen. Uh, Neil Cicierega, Mouth Moods, great album. It's another mashup of samples. This time leaning more comedic. Uh, it's great, but it's not something that you'd ever see on uh, any top 30 list. It's a little bit more novelty, though I wouldn't say you like the only benefit out of listening to it is the novelty. It's a genuinely good album. Give it a listen if you're interested in something a little bit more funny. Next up is Red Hot Chili Peppers with Californication. I really like this album. Uh, Definitely one of the best Red Hot Chili Peppers albums. Anyone can tell you that. The only reason it didn't make my list is I feel like probably just haven't listened to it enough times for it to fully click with me. Um, Next is Alice in Chains, Dirt. Again, great grungy, metally album. Love the instrumentation. The guitars are perfect. Just probably haven't listened to it enough times either for it to fully grow on me. The Comet is Coming, Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery. Great, great j- cosmic jazz album. Um, the only problem I have with it is that the flow between the tracks isn't the greatest, and it feels like it feels like it it's trying to be great because the intro and the outro very much feel like intros and outros. They wouldn't go anywhere else on the album, but I feel like they don't exactly work on their like each track feels sort of isolated from another, and I don't really know how they could fix that, I guess. But it's just not one of my favorites. It's a great album, just not my favorite. Audioslave with their self-titled, uh, great album. I haven't listened to it enough times, most likely, but Rage Against the Machine, perfect team. Does a perfect team up with Chris Cornell. A lot of great songs on there. Like a Stone is definitely one of my favorites that both groups or person has ever created. Next is Daft Punk with Random Access Memories. Again, I just haven't listened to this enough times, but I love. I believe it's "Get Lucky" is the name of the single that came from it. One of the singles. Just everything about the album, the EDM influence, the funk. Even if it's more mainstream than their past albums, from what I've heard, it's still great. Weezer's Blue Album, great. Haven't listened to it enough times, but it's great nerd rock, you know. Neutral Milk Hotel and the Aeroplane Over the Sea. The only problem I have with this is that the instrumentation is super basic, which can definitely be a plus for some people and like not a problem at all. Just for me, I look for a little bit more variation in my music. But yeah, check it out if you're into the sort of noise folk of the late 90s and early 2000s. And the last one I have is Fleet Foxes with their self-titled in 2008. Another great indie folk. The only problem I have with this album is that I haven't listened to it enough times. Like, not a problem. The reason it's probably not on my favorite is that I haven't listened to it enough times. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. All great albums. I think you should definitely give them a listen if you're into the genres that I mentioned with each of them. And I'm excited to start doing actual albums in the coming days. See ya.